Hollywood spent $2 billion on sci-fi last year, and you probably watched the same recycled superhero slop everyone else did. Meanwhile, some of the most mind-bending, reality-warping films ever made are collecting digital dust in streaming purgatory. What if I told you there are sci-fi masterpieces out there that outthink Inception and outweird The Matrix? Here are 13 criminally underrated sci-fi movies you have probably never seen. Beyond the Black Rainbow, 2010. This film is what happens when a madman with a camera decides to weaponize the 1980s against your eyeballs. Director Panos Cosmatos made this as a twisted love letter to the VHS horror and sci-fi films he was forbidden to watch as a child. He created an entire movie based on how he imagined those forbidden tapes might look and feel. The result is something genuinely unprecedented in modern cinema. Set in a sinister New Age research facility called the Arborea Institute, the story follows a young woman with mysterious psychic abilities held captive by a deeply disturbed scientist. But describing the plot almost misses the point entirely. This is pure atmosphere cinema, dripping with analog synthesizers, hypnotic visuals, and the kind of slow-burn dread that gets under your skin and refuses to leave. Critics were baffled when it premiered at Tribeca. Some called it pretentious nonsense. Others declared it a visionary work of retrofuturism. Roger Ebert confessed he had no idea what he had just witnessed, but admitted he could not look away. The film cost only $1 million to make and barely registered at the box office, but it developed a fierce cult following among viewers hungry for something genuinely different. Cosmatos would later direct Mandy with Nicolas Cage, proving his debut was no fluke. If you want sci-fi that feels like a fever dream, beamed directly from 1983, this is your film. The Signal, 2014. 3 MIT students on a road trip track a mysterious hacker who has been tormenting them online. When they arrive at his location in the Nevada desert, everything goes sideways in ways you absolutely cannot predict. Director William Eubank made this for a reported $2 million, and it looks like it cost 20 times that amount. The first act plays like a techno-thriller. The second act transforms into something resembling a paranoid conspiracy drama. The third act rips apart everything you thought you understood about what kind of movie you were watching. Lawrence Fishburne shows up as a hazmat-suited government scientist who speaks in riddles and refuses to explain anything, and his presence adds legitimate gravitas to the proceedings. Critics praise the ambitious storytelling, but some complain the ending raised more questions than answers. That is precisely the point. Eubank crafted a puzzle box film that rewards viewers who pay close attention and punishes those expecting easy resolutions. The visual effects team accomplished genuinely stunning work on a shoestring budget, creating imagery that rivals big studio productions. This movie flopped hard during its theatrical run, barely scraping together a few million worldwide. Yet it has quietly accumulated devoted fans who appreciate its willingness to take massive creative risks. The Signal proves that sci-fi does not need $100 million to blow your mind. Sometimes it just needs a wild idea and the courage to see it through. Pandorum, 2009. Everyone remembers Event Horizon when discussing horror-tinged space movies, but almost nobody talks about Pandorum, which is an absolute crime against cinema. 2 crew members wake from hypersleep on a seemingly abandoned spacecraft with no memory of their mission or why the ship appears to be falling apart. What follows is one of the most intense survival horror experiences the genre has produced. Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster deliver committed performances as men slowly losing their grip on reality while being hunted by creatures that defy easy explanation. The film creates genuine claustrophobia through its production design, filling every frame with dripping pipes, flickering lights, and the constant threat lurking in darkness. Director Christian Alvart wanted to make a film that combined psychological horror with relentless creature terror, and he absolutely delivered. The movie bombed spectacularly, earning only $20 million against a $40 million budget. Critics dismissed it as derivative alien territory without understanding what Alvart was attempting. Over the years, horror fans discovered this gem on home video and began championing it as one of the decade's most overlooked sci-fi horror efforts. The twist ending recontextualizes everything that came before in genuinely surprising ways. Unlike lazy twists that feel tacked on, Pandorum's revelation emerges organically from clues scattered throughout the film. If you can handle intense creature action and suffocating dread, this one deserves immediate addition to your watch list. Europa Report, 2013. Found footage science fiction barely exists because it is incredibly difficult to execute well. Europa Report proves it can be done with intelligence, restraint, and genuine scientific accuracy that impressed actual NASA engineers when they screened it. A privately funded mission travels to Jupiter's moon, Europa, to search for potential life beneath its icy surface, and things go wrong in ways that feel terrifyingly plausible. Director Sebastian Cordero assembled an international cast, including Charlton Copley and Michael Nyqvist, to portray astronauts whose professionalism slowly crumbles under mounting disasters. The film refuses cheap jump scares and instead builds dread through accumulating failures and the vast indifference of space. Real scientists served as consultants, ensuring the technology and procedures depicted feel authentic rather than Hollywood fantasy. Critics praised the realistic approach, while some audiences found the pacing too deliberate for their tastes. Those willing to embrace the slow burn discovered one of the most scientifically grounded space exploration films ever produced. The climax delivers genuine cosmic wonder and terror in equal measure, suggesting that finding what we are looking for might be the worst outcome imaginable. Europa Report cost only $10 million and made almost nothing theatrically, but streaming audiences have steadily discovered its brilliance. For anyone who loved the Martian scientific problem-solving or Arrival's sense of wonder, this film belongs on your essential viewing list immediately. Existenz, 1999. David Cronenberg released this virtual reality nightmare the same month as The Matrix, and the timing could not have been worse. While everyone was dodging bullets in leather trench coats, Cronenberg was doing something far stranger and more disturbing with the concept of simulated reality. Game designer Allegra Geller flees assassins trying to destroy her latest creation. A game so immersive that players cannot distinguish it from actual existence. The technology in this film is deliberately organic and unsettling. Game pods look like fleshy creatures. Ports are installed directly into human spines. Everything pulses and breathes in ways that make your skin crawl. Cronenberg was exploring body horror and technology decades before anyone else understood how prescient his vision would become. Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law navigate increasingly unstable layers of reality, while the audience loses track of what is real and what is simulation. The film constantly pulls the rug out from under you, creating genuine paranoia about the nature of existence itself. Critics appreciated the ambition, but mainstream audiences largely ignored it, distracted by flashier cyberpunk alternatives. Existenz earned only $3 million domestically against a $15 million budget. Total theatrical failure. Yet film scholars now recognize it as one of Cronenberg's most important works, anticipating our current anxieties about virtual spaces and digital addiction with uncomfortable accuracy. This has required viewing for anyone interested in where sci-fi philosophy meets body horror. Sunshine, 2007. Danny Boyle made a space movie so gorgeous and terrifying that audiences did not know what to do with it. 50 years in the future, the sun is dying, and humanity's last hope rests on a crew delivering a massive bomb designed to reignite our star. The premise sounds absurd, but Boyle and screenwriter Alex Garland treat it with complete seriousness, creating one of the most visually stunning films of the decade. The cast is absolutely stacked. Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Rose Byrne, Michelle Yeoh, and more deliver performances that ground the cosmic stakes in genuine human emotion. Boyle wanted to capture the overwhelming terror and beauty of our sun, and his visual approach is nothing short of breathtaking. The cinematography earned praise from critics who compared sequences to religious experiences. The third act shifts into horror territory that divided audiences sharply. Some felt the tonal change betrayed the film's scientific foundation. Others argued it made thematic sense, representing humanity's darker impulses threatening our survival. The debate continues among fans to this day, proving the film succeeded in provoking genuine engagement. Sunshine made only $30 million against a $40 million budget. Critics were mixed, audiences confused, but time has been exceptionally kind to this film. Many now consider it one of the best space movies ever made, a meditation on sacrifice, obsession, and our relationship with the cosmic forces that sustain us. Predestination, 2014. Time travel movies usually make your brain hurt from obvious paradoxes and lazy writing. Predestination makes your brain hurt because it is genuinely brilliant and absolutely airtight in its internal logic. Ethan Hawke plays a temporal agent hunting a terrorist called the Fizzle Bomber, but describing anything beyond that basic setup would spoil one of cinema's most carefully constructed puzzle boxes. The Spierig brothers adapted Robert Heinlein's short story, All You Zombies, and remained remarkably faithful to its mind-bending premise. Sarah Snook delivers a transformative performance that earned widespread critical acclaim despite the film's limited release. Her character goes through experiences that challenge everything you think you know about identity and fate. Critics who saw it were blown away by the craftsmanship. The screenplay weaves an impossibly complex narrative without ever losing the emotional thread. Every scene contains clues that only make sense on repeated viewings, rewarding audiences who pay attention. The directors trusted viewers to keep up rather than dumbing down their vision. The film barely received theatrical distribution and made almost nothing at the box office. Streaming platforms eventually gave it the audience it deserved, and word of mouth spread among sci-fi enthusiasts. If you have not seen Predestination, clear your schedule and watch it with zero distractions. Then immediately watch it again because you will need to. The Man from Earth, 2007. Here is a film that proves you need absolutely nothing except brilliant writing and committed actors to create unforgettable science fiction. Professor John Oldman invites colleagues to his home and reveals he is actually a 14,000-year-old caveman who has survived throughout human history. The entire movie takes place in a single cabin with people talking. That is it. And it is absolutely riveting. Director Richard Schenkman worked with a script from Jerome Bixby, the legendary writer who created Mirror, Mirror for Star Trek, and wrote extensively for The Twilight Zone. Bixby spent decades perfecting this screenplay, finishing it on his deathbed. The result is science fiction stripped to pure ideas, challenging viewers to grapple with questions about history, religion, and what it means to live forever. No special effects, no action sequences, no explosions, just people debating whether a man could actually be immortal. Primer, 2004. Shane Carruth made this for $7,000. $7,000. He wrote it, directed it, starred in it, composed the music, and handled production design. Two engineers accidentally discover time travel in their garage, and their attempt to exploit the discovery spirals into incomprehensible complexity that rewards obsessive viewers willing to map out the timeline on graph paper. This is not a movie you watch, it is a movie you study. Carruth deliberately refused to simplify the science or handhold audiences through the implications. Characters speak in technical jargon without explanation. Timeline branches multiply without clear signposting. By the third viewing, you might start understanding what actually happened. Or you might just appreciate the audacity of a filmmaker who trusted audiences to work for their comprehension. Critics at Sundance were stunned when Primer won the Grand Jury Prize. How could something this deliberately difficult succeed? Because underneath the complexity lies a deeply human story about friendship corrupted by power and the impossibility of escaping our own worst impulses. The technical achievement is remarkable, but the emotional tragedy gives the film lasting resonance. Primer made slightly over $400,000 theatrically against that impossibly low budget. Independent filmmakers still study it as proof that vision matters more than resources. If you consider yourself a serious sci-fi fan and have not wrestled with Primer, you have homework to complete. Upgrade, 2018. Lee Wannell directed this absolute banger for $5 million and delivered more thrilling action than most films costing 50 times that amount. Gray Trace is a technophobe mechanic who gets paralyzed after a brutal attack that kills his wife. A mysterious benefactor offers him an experimental AI chip called STEM that restores his movement and gives him superhuman combat abilities. Revenge follows. The action sequences are genuinely revolutionary. Wannell developed a technique where the camera moves in perfect synchronization with the actor's body, creating fight choreography that feels inhuman and balletic simultaneously. Critics compared the visual approach to John Wick, while noting Upgrade brought something entirely fresh to the genre. Logan Marshall Green delivers a committed performance as a man gradually losing control to the AI inside his spine. The film explores bodily autonomy and artificial intelligence with more intelligence than most prestige sci-fi productions. STEM's personality shifts from helpful assistant to something far more sinister in ways that feel eerily relevant to our current conversations about AI development. The ending delivers a gut punch that lingers long after credits roll. Upgrade made $30 million against its tiny budget, qualifying as a genuine hit. Yet somehow, it still flies under most people's radar when discussing great sci-fi. Wannell proved himself a visionary director and went on to make The Invisible Man. But Upgrade remains his most purely entertaining achievement. Coherence, 2013. 8 friends gather for a dinner party on the night a comet passes overhead, and reality starts breaking apart in ways that seem impossible to explain. Director James Ward Bearkit shot this over 5 nights in his own house with no formal script, giving actors note cards with character beats and letting them improvise their way through increasingly unhinged situations. The result feels disturbingly real. The horror of Coherence is existential rather than physical. Characters discover their choices might be creating alternate versions of themselves, leading to paranoia about who they are actually talking to. The film exploits social dynamics brilliantly, showing how quickly trust dissolves when you cannot be certain the person beside you is who you think they are. Critics who caught this at film festivals went absolutely wild. Reviews praise the ingenious low-budget approach and the genuine terror Bearkit extracted from such limited resources. The ensemble cast delivers naturalistic performances that sell the impossible premise completely. You believe these people know each other, which makes their growing suspicion devastating. Coherence cost only $50,000 and made almost nothing commercially. It found its audience through streaming and word of mouth, becoming a beloved recommendation among horror and sci-fi enthusiasts. If you want proof that great science fiction requires imagination rather than money, this film should be exhibit number 1 in your evidence folder. Moon, 2009. Duncan Jones made his directorial debut with a film so confidently crafted that critics assumed he must have been working for decades. Sam Rockwell plays the sole employee of a lunar mining base nearing the end of his 3-year contract. When an accident reveals he might not be alone, the film opens into questions about identity, memory, and corporate exploitation that feel more relevant with each passing year. Rockwell delivers one of the great science fiction performances, essentially acting opposite himself, while maintaining distinct characterizations that never become confusing. The production design deliberately evokes classic films like 2001 and Silent Running, while establishing its own melancholic aesthetic. Clint Mansell's score is hauntingly beautiful, underlining the loneliness at the film's emotional core. Critics adored Moon when it premiered at Sundance. Praise focused on the intelligent screenplay, Rockwell's tour de force acting, and Jones's obvious talent behind the camera. The film earned numerous awards and launched Jones toward bigger projects, including Source Code and Warcraft. Despite critical acclaim, Moon only earned $10 million theatrically against a $5 million budget. The subject matter and deliberate pacing kept mainstream audiences away. Their loss. This is science fiction that treats viewers like adults, trusting them to engage with philosophical questions rather than demanding constant spectacle. Moon represents everything the genre can achieve when ambition meets execution. Dark City, 1998. Alex Proyas released this reality-bending masterpiece 1 year before The Matrix, and was promptly forgotten when audiences chose leather-clad gunfights over expressionist noir. John Murdoch wakes in a bathtub with no memory, discovers he is wanted for murders he cannot remember committing, and realizes the city itself transforms every night while its inhabitants sleep. Pale beings called the Strangers manipulate human memories, searching for something they desperately need. The production design is absolutely extraordinary. Proyas built a city that exists outside of time, combining 1940s architecture with futuristic technology and German expressionist shadows. Every frame looks like a painting from a nightmare you cannot quite remember. The visuals influenced countless films that followed, while Dark City itself faded into obscurity. Rufus Sewell, Kiefer Sutherland, Jennifer Connelly, and William Hurt deliver performances perfectly calibrated to the heightened reality. Roger Ebert championed the film passionately, naming it the best film of 1998 and writing extensively about its themes of identity and free will. Other critics praised its ambition, while noting audiences seemed unprepared for something this intellectually demanding. Dark City made only $27 million against a $40 million budget. Warner Brothers butchered the theatrical cut with an unnecessary opening narration that spoiled the mystery. The director's cut restores Proyas's vision and transforms an already excellent film into a genuine masterpiece. This is the science fiction film The Matrix wanted to be, released at the wrong moment in history. If you watch only one movie from this list, make it this one.